Alright, so we are at the point where we want to start putting our brooders together. Usually I like my teachers to at least test out your heat lamps a week in advance just in case one of them isn't working properly. So make sure you do that. But in preparation for actually our chicks hatching and putting them into our containers, here's a little tutorial on how to get that started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take everything out of your container, make sure it's clear. There's nothing in the bottom that the chicks could eat and potentially get sick or harm themselves. So we've got a clean container. This one's clear. Everybody else will have containers with not clear sides. So every kit should have come with 2 bags of this bedding. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take this bedding, simply dump it in. I would start with just 1 bag at first. You don't want it to be too thick because all they're going to do is make a mess out of it. So 1 bag should be enough to cover the bottom and have a little density too. Alright, so we've got our bedding down, kind of spread it around, make it even so you can see from the sides it's about 1 inch. So that should be good. And that way, if it starts to get messy and gross and smell, you have a little extra to change it out if you would like to. Also in your kits, you have your feeder and your waterer. So the feeder, the difference is it has these little holes like this that they can, stick their heads in, and the waterer is just a solid base, so the water will fill. So how these work, these are just mason jars and they screw off. So with your feeder, you're going to take some food that you should have enough to get you started. I'm going to do this over here, so just kind of dump that in as best you can. There we go. Alright, so obviously if you flip this over, that's all going to pour out. So you take the bottom of your feeder, put it on top, and sometimes they take a while to grip. There we go. And you're just going to twist that tight, and then you're going to quickly turn it over, and you can see it kind of filled the bottom already. So the next time you go to fill it up, your whole bottom, like I could do that and now the whole bottom is filled, so I could probably fill this up again, just so they have enough. So what I do with this, just going to set it in one of the corners. Not all the way in the corner, but just enough so they can get around both sides. Same thing with our waterer. You're going to unscrew your mason jar. Take your water, pour it in, and you probably want to go ahead and fill it up all the way. I'm just doing a little example. Then you take your bottom, find your groove, twist it on, and same thing, you're going to want to flip it kind of fast. Oop, you can see it comes out pretty quickly. And set that in the opposite corner so they have some space. Okay, so now our chicks are going to have food and they have our water. We're going to get all the water out of this heat lamp. And I'm going to show you up close exactly how this heat lamp works. But first, just so you know, all of our heat lamps should already have the bulb in. It's a red bulb. So if it's not in, go ahead and twist that in there. Okay. And then most of our kits have been used before, so they probably already have this cage. But just so you're aware, if not, there are little holes on the side of this, cone shape, and you put these little prongs in. And that's mostly just a safety feature so that nobody's grabbing the hot lamp. So I'm not going to put it in all the way, but this will cover something like that. Alright, so with your heat lamp, you want to give chicks an opportunity to stay warm because they're used to the temperature being about 100 degrees in their incubator. But you want them to start adjusting to normal temperatures because it's obviously not 100 degrees here all day, every day. So you're going to find a sturdy, probably a table or a desk. I have a temporary setup right here with things I found in the office, so I probably want something sturdier than this with our actual brooder. But just as an example, I do not want people to clip it on here. This is a no, this is too close to the chicks. It's not going to give them a lot of relief from if they get hot. So it's too close, plus these are plastic and we don't want them to melt because then we have to buy more. So we want to find something close by our brooder and you just clamp it on. And this, like I said, this isn't going to be a perfect example, but we're going to make it work. Alright, so we'll just do it like that. So there's a little space. And before we plug it in, and I'll show this up close, I do want you to use the hygrometer that was in your kit, but we're going to actually use the temperature, the thermometer part of your hygrometer. So that's the smaller number. And what I do with these, I take some tape, probably want better tape than this, and I tape it to the side because you don't really want it laying in the bottom of your brooder because they'll just peck at it and possibly break it and all sorts of things. So I just tape it to the side just above their reach so I can kind of monitor what the temperature is in the brooder, because we want them to have that 100-degree temperature initially, and then we want to slowly kind of back off of that so that they slowly start to adjust. Okay, so this is what it looks like from afar, and let me show you what it looks like up close. Okay, so we have our kit, our brooder all set up. Food's over here, water's over here. You can switch it. You probably don't want the water to get too warm, so anything on this side is going to be much warmer than over here. But we want our chicks to have the opportunity to kind of start to go back and forth and get used to that different temperatures. So something you'll notice, and I'm going to use various items in my office to show you. So let's say all of these little animals are your chicks, okay? And I'm going to put them all together kind of like this, okay? So in this case, the chicks are all on the warm side of our incubator and they're all huddled together. So this might be an indication that our chicks are a little cold. We might need to bring our heat lamp a little bit closer to help warm it up. Take a look at your thermometer and see what the temperature is in the space. But if they are all as close together as possible under the heat lamp, they might be a little cold. You might want to warm it up a little bit. But in other cases, you might find them all spread out. Some of them might be laying flat on their backs. They have their wings out. They're really spread out like this. That's probably an indication that they are really hot and it might be a little too warm in there. So you have to play around a little bit and move your heat lamp to get them to the right temperature. It's normal for them to, you know, stay fairly close together when they lay down, but having a little bit of space between them is probably a good indication that they are at a good temperature and they're enjoying it. So just monitor how they are handling that. You will notice pretty quickly the waterer will get dirty. They like to, you know, kind of brush at the flakes and they end up in here. So you will have to clean this out fairly frequently, just based on how active your chicks are, how many you have, and if you put too much bedding in, then you'll probably end up with more flakes in your water. So when the flakes get in there, they kind of absorb the water a little bit too. So, and then it gets to the point where there's no water left because the flakes have absorbed it all. So you don't have to necessarily throw these away, but just kind of toss them out of the water, and that way they have access to fresh water. So that is generally how your brooder works. Again, make sure you put your heat lamp on an object that is not your plastic container. Put it on something more sturdy, and you may have to move your incubator slowly away to help with the temperature changes, or move it slightly closer. So you just have to mess around, but generally at this point it's pretty simple. Keep water for them in this container, keep food in there for them to eat. You will notice there is a reason we call it we have the phrase pecking order. You will have, I'll use this as an example, you will have chicks, you know, peck at each other, and that's totally normal. They're establishing a pecking order. So just kind of monitor that, make sure none of them are bleeding or anything, but monitor that, but know that pecking is pretty normal. They're going to peck at each other. Alright, so that is how you set up your brooder. Most importantly, use these items in your kits. Do not use a bowl, just a bowl of water. I know they can kind of go through the water quickly and you'll get frustrated that these flakes end up in there, but if you put too big of a bowl, there's the potential of them drowning, so you don't want to have that risk for your kids. So use the items from your kit, keep them filled, keep it as clean as you can, and enjoy having chicks.